In the previous video we had looked at the effect of changing the FASB, the Financial Accounting Standards Board, prescribed parameter of volatility on the value of the employee stock option or a grantee stock option. If the option is deep out of the money, volatility has less of an impact. One way of directly observing that, if we started with a stock price that was quite low and we increase the value of the option, let's say the option value, the current stock value was 20 with an exercise of 100 and the same parameter inputs, increasing the volatility from 10% to 70% only produced a $5.50 increase in the value of the option. If we were closer to the exercise, then the magnitude would be more dramatic, and you can see here we go from the value of the option at 10% level of volatility being 25 going up to almost 50 at 70% level of sigma or volatility. So being close to the exercise can precipitate a more profound effect when you alter the magnitude of volatility. We also are interested in time, because when we look at the FASB guidance, one of the things we can observe, one of the parameters that we are supposed to incorporate into the pricing model is the expected term, taking into account both the contractual term of the option and the effects of the grantee's expected exercise and post vesting termination behavior. So in the Hull-White model, we assume that if the stock price goes 1.5 times or m times the exercise, the option will be exercised prematurely or before expiry. But it should be also noted that in the closed form model, the expected term is an assumption used or an input into the model. So if you're using Black-Scholes style model, you have to assume the expected maturity, whereas if you use a lattice model, the expected term is an output of the model. So we don't need to know the expected term, we just need to know the maturity and the vesting period for Hull and White 2004. So let's examine then the effect of changing. Instead of the time period, we should consider, instead of volatility, we should consider the maturity. Okay, so we delete that detail from our graph and we start again. Now we look at, again, the same parameter values, but we build a data table where we'll start with maturity of perhaps 2 years, 4 years, and maybe go up to 18 years. Okay, and we might just remove some of the color here. And then we do set up a data table by going to the data tab, coming over to what if analysis, data table. We've organized the data here as a row, so it's or as a column, so it's a column input cell, and then what in the original parameter input relates to the maturity. And that 10 years we can incorporate here into this cell, and we execute and we get a set of values now being produced where we can compare the maturity of the option to the value of the ESO. So let's insert and look for scatter graph, and we can see that as the time period, so it's the ESO value, the employee stock option value, ESO value, time value versus the maturity of option. And it would appear that as we increase the value of the maturity, the value of the option tends to also increase more dramatically in the earlier period than going from 10 years to 15. Now a consideration here is if we increase the dividend, we take a simple case, we increase the dividend to 2%, and try again. Let's say increase, so the maximum value here is 25. What if we increase that to 5%? We notice that the value of the option is falling. Okay, if we increase that to 7%, again the value of the option is falling. So the longer the time period and the more dividend we pay out, the more we get an impact from bleeding out some value from the company. If the dividend is quite low, then what we tend to observe is that the value of the option is higher. So again, depending on other parameters, there's a lot of interaction between maturity and other parameters. But if we increase the maturity of the option and we increase the dividend, then that mitigates the level to which the value of the option will go up. But a straightforward bivariable relationship, as we increase the maturity, the value of the option goes up. If we increase the exit rate, typically the value of the option should go down. So if we go to 0.8 again, we notice that the value of the option goes down because that in effect implies more people are leaving. As we increase this exit rate, then an increasing proportion, a larger number of more employee turnover, and that mitigates the cost of the option. So let's put that back to 0.04, and we might understand that because it must, if you leave early, if there's a high exit rate and it's within the vesting period, then individuals forfeit their options. If the vesting period is higher, let's say it's 4 years, the value of we can observe the effect on the value of the option. So we can see the value of the option is dropping in the up to the 4th year. If we increase the vesting period, it should to, let's say, 8 years, it should drop even more. And again, that's because if you leave early, then you forfeit the option. If you leave before the vesting period, you forfeit the option and the company saves some money. So the cost of issuing the option is reduced. Now this is again, the maturity is going in steps of 2 years, 4 years, up to 18 years. Okay, so again, what might be noted is there's as we consider any particular variable, it might be noted that you must view that in conjunction with the other effects. Okay, so we can change back to where we were. Okay, so these are the variables we started off with.